Before we begin our session, let's offer our prayers to Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktivedanta Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandrodaya Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the Science of Self-Realization sessions. So today's topic is going to be a devotee feels compassion always. So with this same compassion, Srila Prabhupada, when he was 70 years old, he left India and went to the Western countries, taking the message of Sanatana Dharma, Bhagavad and Bhagavatam. So devotee means he is an ocean of mercy, ocean of daya, compassion. So what is this quality of a devotee and how it has benefited the entire humanity is what we are going to discuss in today's session. But today we will not be able to complete the entire discussion. We will continue this in the next session also. This presentation is the inspiration by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the worldwide Hare Krishna movement, ISKCON. By his wonderful teachings, Prabhupada has been guiding us always. Okay. Our discussion today is from one important subject matter discussed in the Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is a very vast Vedic literature. This vast Vedic literature is having 12 parts called 12 cantos. In fact, Bhagavata is considered to be the postgraduate study of Bhagavad Gita. Whatever Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is spoken instructions, those very principles, those very various aspects are being elaborated with historical examples in Bhagavata. So, Bhagavad Gita is considered to be the preliminary study, initial study in spiritual life. And Bhagavata is considered to be the postgraduate study in spiritual life. So, we'll discuss today from the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which talks about the glorification of the holy name of the Lord. How, in the present age of Kali Yuga, chanting Hare Krishna mantra is so important. And with the example, it is explained in the Bhagavata 6th canto, historical example of one person by name Ajamila. So we're going to discuss some aspects of that particular incident discussed in the Bhagavata. And it's basically to teach us how chanting the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it is so important in all of our lives. And this aspect of chanting is possible, it is made possible only by the mercy of a devotee. Because Lord's holy name is transcendental, is spiritual. And it is delivered to all of us by the mercy of a pure devotee. That is the discussion which we are going to have today. So, in the 6th canto, there was a discussion between two personalities. This is Shukadeva Goswami, the speaker, and the person who was intended to be spoken is Parikshit Maharaj. So, this particular aspect in the 6th canto is discussion is happening in connection with a Brahmana by name Ajamila, who was very fallen and addicted to all kinds of sinful activities, but was saved simply by chanting the holy name. The holy name is so powerful that can wash off all sinful activities of a person. So the description goes on like this with regard to the hell and heaven. So Bhagavatam explains that the universal planetary systems are very nicely explained in the previous canto, that is 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein a very detailed description of the hellish planets, some of the hellish planets is being given. The slide which you are seeing, the picture, which is what I am displaying now, is showing the complete universe, wherein the upper planetary systems, the middle planetary systems, and the lower planetary systems is being depicted. And the hellish planets are situated in one of these planetary systems. So, about this hell and heaven, not only Bhagavatam is explaining, but all the religious scriptures have descriptions of hell and heaven. Right? So any religion you take, description of hell and heaven is there. So this hell and heaven are places wherein the living entities, especially human beings, they are awarded different destinations. If they have performed pious activities, they are elevated to heaven or Swargaloka. And if they have been very sinful throughout their life, then they are destined to go to hellish planets, suffer for the different sinful activities they have done, and accordingly give them further direction to take up one more material body as a punishment. That is what is happening in the whole existence. So our every activity is judged, whether it is a good activity or a bad activity, pious activity or impious activity, papa, punya, is all being judged every moment. This we have to understand. Because we cannot say nobody is monitoring me, nobody is watching me, so I can do whatever I want. No, that is not possible. There are a lot of arrangements of Supreme Lord. When every action of ours is being watched. In fact, Lord himself as Paramatma is there. And he is constantly seeing what you're thinking, what you're doing, what you're acting. He's constantly monitoring that. So the Bhagavata says that the hellish planets are being situated in a particular place in this whole universe. Just like from the modern astronomy, we get information about the various situations of different stars and the galaxies and different aspects like that. So very precise description has been given in the Srimad Bhagavata about the various hellish planets. Just like the astronomers have calculated how far is the moon from here and what is the distance between this planet and the sun, like that, Bhagavatam describes various hellish planets, different hellish planets, and what type of punishment in each hellish planet is being very properly explained. It's like a person, as soon as he has to leave, or his term of existence is finished, what happens is that the Yamadutas, the constables of Yamaraj is considered to be the superintendent of death. So when our time to leave this body comes, then the Yamadutas are sent to the respective person. And then that person's subtle body is taken out from this gross body. It's dragged out. Subtle body means the mind, intelligence, and false ego. The subtle body with the spirit soul is dragged out of the gross body, and it is taken to the Yamaloka. And there, it's like when you go to jail, what happens? The jail, you're given a different dress, right? Your civilian dress is taken out and you're given a jail dress with some number. That you're going to be given a Yatana Sharira. wherein you're going to be punished for various sinful activities you have done. Right? The different sinful activities are broadly classified as 4. Meat eating. Nowadays, people think that eating meat is a status symbol. People eat fish, eggs, so many animals they are killing. They think, it is very tasty, it's going to give us nutrition, it's going to give us proteins. Other people think it's very, very good food. But every animal you have caused suffering and eaten it, you have to suffer the reaction for it. Said in the Bhagavatam, there is a hell wherein is known as Kumbhi Paka. Kumbhi Paka means the way you have killed the animal and taken the animal and tried to cook it by boiling it and deep frying it. Similarly, your body also will go through those yatanas or sufferings. You'll be similarly the same animals which you killed are all waiting to punish you, and they will take you and put in a big kadai, right? And the boiling water will be thrown inside, and you have to experience that. Like that, the sinful activity of meat eating or the sinful activity of intoxication, alcohol, cigarette, tobacco, and even drinking coffee, tea is considered to be intoxicant. So any intoxicant you have consumed, then you have to be similarly suffering. Right? Like that, the sinful activity of gambling, cheating, right? Meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex. Having connection with opposite sex, who is not your spouse, then you have to suffer for that. A sinful activity. So likewise, every action what we have done is completely recorded by Yamaraj as assistants, known as Chitragupta, who are all taking records of your sinful activities, and accordingly you'll be punished. So there are different types of hellish planets like this described in the Bhagavatam. Just to give us an understanding, our life is not finished with the end of this body. In fact, our life is going to continue eternally, and it's just that whatever you have done in this span of time in this body, you're going to enjoy or suffer. That's the understanding. So these are all facts. It's all which everybody will be experiencing them. So, like this Bhagavatam has different descriptions of the hellish planets. Just like in our experience in the material world, we see different atmospheric conditions even on this planet. It's like if you go to North Pole or South Pole, it's full of cold weather, covered with ice and snow, and it's very, very difficult to stay there. Or you go to some African countries, very hot, right? And like that, you have different atmospheric situations even in this planet, in different places. Likewise, that there are different planetary systems where there are sufferings, punishment, there is opulence, there is enjoyment. Like that, there are different situations in the whole universe. This you have to understand. Now, further, Prabhupada is giving the example again how in the Western countries near the North Pole the climate is different than in India, which is near the equator. Just as there are differences in atmosphere and the living conditions on this planet, similarly, there are many planets that have different atmospheres and conditions of life. Now, we have to discuss on an important aspect known as a Vaishnava's compassionate quality. Like this, all of us are going on in the material world, wandering and suffering. So after hearing these descriptions of the hellish planets from Shukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj asked one question. He said, Adhuneha Mahabhaga Yathaiva Narakan Naraha Nanogra Yatanan Ninyat Tanme Vyakhyatu Arhasi. Sir, I have heard from you about the hellish planets. Men who are very sinful are sent to those planets. So, if you are leading a life of complete adharma or sinful life, then you have to experience the suffering. You have to go through the different type of sufferings of different hellish planets. This is the fact. Nobody can deny this. You cannot say, I don't care for the future, I don't know what's the future. You may be ignorant or you may not believe, but what is a fact is a fact. The way the material world is designed, these are all nicely described in the scriptures, and we have to accept them as facts. Right? So, in that context, we can see that Parikshit Maharaj, who is a very great personality, he was the king of the entire universe. He is telling what is going to happen to people who are very sinful. Right? He is telling Shukadeva Goswami, the speaker, that I have heard from you about the different hellish planets and men who are very sinful. Then they go to the hellish planets. So Parikshit Maharaj is talking like this. Why? Because he is a devotee, a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava means one who is a devotee of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. And a Vaishnava's quality is that he always feels compassion for others' distress. Para dukkha, dukhi is one of the important quality of a Vaishnava. That he cannot see others suffering. Whereas the present situation, you can see that we see people having this mentality of para dukkha sukhi. If somebody else is going through difficulty or problem, I am very happy. Or somebody is very happy, then I am very distressed. I cannot tolerate others' happiness, and I am very happy when others are in distress. So like this, present situation is a different situation because we don't have a devotee attitude. Whereas a devotee, he always sees, others are suffering. Why they are suffering? The hellish planets, because they have committed sinful activities. So they are very concerned. Why are they suffering in the hell like this? How can I help them? How can I deliver them? This is the thinking which a devotee does. He is very afflicted by the miseries of others. He cannot see others suffering. But all of us are spirit souls, are not entitled for such suffering. We're supposed to be living in a very happy situation. We have an example of Lord Jesus Christ, who presented himself because he was greatly afflicted by the miserable condition of the people. Right? He could not tolerate the sufferings people are going through. So he wanted to preach the philosophy of God consciousness amongst the people and make them sober and happy about the goal of life, about the destination of life. So like this, we have great saints and acharyas who are very concerned about the suffering of the humanity. So the important quality of a Vaishnava or a devotee or a saint or a spiritual teacher is that regardless of which country or sect they belong, all the Vaishnavas or devotees or any person who is God conscious, Krishna conscious are very compassionate. See, compassion, this aspect of compassion we have to understand properly. In the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, Arjuna was very compassionate towards his own people. Why? Because he was thinking, if I fight in this battle, I'm going to kill all of them. So his compassion was on the bodily platform. Right? If they are killed, then they are, with whom I'm going to enjoy this material world? Whom I'm going to show my opulence? This is a type of compassion. It's called material compassion. Right? A nice example is given by Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita. It says, compassion for the dust of a drowning man. I'll repeat. Compassion for the dust of a drowning man is useless. It's like a person is drowning. He's, somehow he couldn't balance himself and is going down in the water, in a river or a lake. And you dive into that water and try to save his shirt or dress, and you come out and say, I've shaved his shirt. That is useless. The actual person is drowned and is gone. Likewise, the compassion on the material grounds, on the material platform for the body, is just like that. So compassion for the spirit soul is the real compassion, the real welfare. So when the saints, the devotees or spiritual teachers, when we say they're compassionate for the spirit soul. Spirit soul's delivery. Of course, when the spirit soul is taken care, automatically the material body is taken care. Body necessities are automatically taken. That's the point. So the missing point in the present context with people is that they are compassionate, of course, but they are compassionate only for the body, not for the spirit soul. Whereas the saints and the devotees, the Vaishnavas, are compassionate for the spirit soul. This is a specific, difference. The wonderful aspect of a devotee, that they are concerned about the spirit soul. In that way, their compassion is much more, deeper and very, very impactful. Therefore, because the Vaishnava or the devotee or a saint is compassionate to everybody from the point of view of spirit soul, Vaishnava, a preacher of God's glory, to blaspheme them is a great offense. If you unnecessarily blaspheme a devotee or a Vaishnava, because they are into a mission or a task of delivering everybody. They are doing the task of God. So if you become unnecessarily vengeful or you blaspheme them, then it is a great offense. And in fact, the scriptures give us understanding that God, Krishna, is never tolerant of offenses committed to the lotus feet of Vaishnava. We should be very careful about this. Being very blasphemous or being very insulting to the devotees is not allowed, is not permitted. Lord has no tolerance to such people. So why it is so is explained that a Vaishnava is known as Kripam Buddhi. Kripam Buddhi means a Vaishnava is an ocean of mercy. But out of great compassion, he goes and wants to deliver the suffering people, even at his own risk. He doesn't bother about his personal self, but rather he wants to deliver other person. And one more quality of a Vaishnava is mentioned, that he is Vancha Kalpataru. He can fulfill everybody's desires. Right? That is the devotee. And he is just there to, just himself is dedicating or is surrendering for the society's cause. He is the ocean of mercy and he can fulfill everybody's desires. Vancha Kalpataru, Kripam Buddhi. And he is Kalpataru, means desire tree. In the spiritual world, there is a tree called desire tree, wherein you can get whatever you desire. So Vaishnava is like that. In the material world, a particular tree can deliver a particular type of a fruit. But in the spiritual world, Krishnaloka, the Vaikuntha planet, the trees are such that they are all desire trees. They are spiritual trees. Whatever you wish, you can get from them. Likewise, the devotee, Vaishnava, a saint, a sadhu is like that. He can fulfill the desires of everybody because he has been empowered like that by Lord Krishna. So the Brahma Samhita explains about this, that spiritual world has Kalpa Vriksha. Kalpa Vriksha means desire trees. It's like in the material world, mango is available from mango tree only. Whereas in the spiritual world, a mango tree can give you apple also. The Prabhupada says a mango tree can give you samosa also. Like that. So Brahma Samhita explains, Chinta Mani Prakrasad Mashu Kalpa Vriksha. So likewise, a Vaishnava, a devotee, is described as Mahabhaga. He is very fortunate. Right? He is Kripam Buddhi. He is ocean of mercy. He is Vancha Kalpataru. He can fulfill everybody's desires and is very fortunate. So one who becomes a Vaishnava and is God conscious is understood to be greatly fortunate. So to become a devotee, a Vaishnava, a sadhu, is considered to be a very fortunate situation. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that after many, many millions of lives, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, Gyanvan Man Prabhupada. After many millions of lives, somebody may understand that Vasudeva Krishna is everything. Let me surrender unto him. Just see. Likewise, to get even the understanding that I have to surrender to Krishna. And Krishna says, Sudurlabha is very rarely seen. So to become a devotee means Krishna is so much favored him, and Krishna likes that such a person, such a devotee. Because the devotee's only mission is how to spread the glories of Krishna and deliver the suffering. So, actually, what is the situation right now? What is happening with all of us, our existence? We're all wandering all over the universe. He's explained to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very nicely. He says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself. He says that the living entities are rotating in different species of life, in different planetary systems all over the universe. It's like we discussed in the beginning of the session, that you're doing pious activities, punya activities, then you go to heaven, Swargaloka. Then you're doing papa karma or impious activities, then you go to Naraka or hellish planets. Like this, we are going up and down, up and down. Just like in a fair, big fair is there. There's a lot of things in the fair. Right? There will be the big wheel called below the wisp. Sometimes that wheel takes you on top and again it brings you down. Like that, we are going up and down by different activities. You're doing punya activities, you're elevated. You're doing papa activities, you're degraded. Likewise, our life is going on. We are wandering in different planetary systems, up and down. It is nicely explained in Bengali as Brahmanda Brahmana. Brahmanda means the universe. Brahmana means moving around. We are simply moving around here and there in the material world by our different activities. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, all over the universe we are moving around. A living entity can go anywhere, hell or heaven, as he likes and as he prepares himself. It's not that the living entity is simply taken to different places, because the living entity's activities is karma decides his next life. So what activities we do in this life is very important. If our activities are predominantly of the nature of the way Bhagavad Gita is telling us, then Lord Krishna says, not even heaven, you'll go to spiritual world. Right? But if you simply want to be very pious and very good man, morally upright, then you may go to heaven. And if your whole life is only dictated by committing sinful activities, every step you're only committing sins, then hell is destined for you. The Bhagavad Gita Krishna explains that persons who are driven by kama, krodha, lobha, lust, anger, and greed. Right? All of us, if you see, analyze, these three qualities are so much in our consciousness, in our heart. Krishna says, kama, krodha, lobhas, trividas narakasyedam. If these qualities are prominent in our consciousness, kama, krodha, lobha, then this is going to lead us to hell. Trividam narakasya edam. Krishna says, please give up these qualities of kama, krodha, lobha, because they'll take us to hell. So they're very greatly sinful activities. Krishna elsewhere he says in Bhagavad Gita that kama, krodha are so much degrading qualities that they make you sinful. So we have to give up these base qualities of kama, krodha, lobha in order to elevate our consciousness to higher consciousness. This is the instruction given. So it's all our way of working, our consciousness level, which gives us a destination of either going to hell or heaven. So there are many heavenly planets, many hellish planets, and many species of life. The scriptures say that there are 84 lakh species of life, or 8.4 million species of life. So why is there so many species? Because so many desires of living entities. In the living entities, various desires are there, and the Lord is awarding them different bodies. Actually, the body, whatever we get, is a sort of a punishment, imprisonment. Just like a criminal, based on the severity of the criminal action he has performed, he'll get that level of punishment. his level of severity of criminal action he has done is too much, then the punishment also is to that level very severe. Likewise, our different bodies, what we see around us, different material bodies of animals, birds, plants, trees, insects, humans, all of us are going through a different imprisonment in these material bodies, terms of imprisonment. Right? After the body of animal is over, you'll get one more body, like that. This is the gradual elevation called evolution in the other forms. And once you come to human form of life, we are supposed to understand all these things and no more take one more birth in the material world and elevate ourselves to spiritual planet. That is the instruction given by Lord Krishna. It is very easily possible in the human form of life. We are adopting what is known as Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness. So, the different planetary systems are there, the different species of life are there. You can enter into any species of life. This life you may be a human being. Next life you can become a dog. Or next life you become an elephant. Or you become a bird, or you become an insect. Anything you can become based on your activities. So the living entity is rotating, wandering through these species and creating bodies according to his mentality in the present life. This is explained by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Yam yam vapis paran bhavam, tajati ante kalevaram. Whatever type of mentality you are having at the time of leaving this body, that type of body you are going to get definitely. So, at the time of death, all the activities you have done, cumulatively, it will be formed as some consciousness in your body. And that type of consciousness, if it is not remembering Krishna, then you're going to get one more type of material body based on your activities, based on your type of mentality you're having. So, a famous English saying says, as you sow, so shall you reap. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that out of all these numberless living entities who are traveling in the material world, if one is fortunate, not everyone, then he can get the mercy of Lord Krishna in the form of Bhakti, Krishna consciousness. Because taking up the understanding of devotional service and following the principles is not an aspect that anybody can do that. The statement by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like this: Brahmande Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan. Bhagyavan, fortunate. In the Brahmanda, what is happening, whole universe, we are rotating in different bodies. Sometimes in hell, sometimes in heaven, sometimes getting good body, sometimes getting a very degraded body. Like this, we are going on rotating in this material world. If you are fortunate, you are Bhagyavan. Brahmande Brahmite Kono Bhagyavana Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. If you are fortunate, then you will get the seed of devotion by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Now, if you are not fortunate, then you will be going on in the material world, continuing the cycle of repeated birth and death again and again. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam will go on in the material world. Like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, the fortune comes by the mercy of a Vaishnava, a devotee. Right? So it is being distributed freely everywhere. What is being distributed? The mercy of Lord Krishna being distributed freely everywhere. But why people are not taking it? Because they are unfortunate. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that only those who are fortunate take to this Krishna consciousness and they get hopeful life, pleasant life, blissful life, full of knowledge, life of knowledge. So, coming back to our purposeful life, meaningful life, and perfecting our life doesn't mean you have to become a very big man, big business magnate, earning a lot of money, becoming a big leader or a big politician. No, all of these things end with his body. What is most important is how much spiritually you have progressed, how much spiritual understanding you have gained, and how much you are practically applying them in your practical life. I am spirit soul. I am part and parcel of Krishna. I am supposed to be doing devotional service to Krishna. This understanding. How much has awakened in you is the point. So, everybody can do that. But why everybody is not doing? Because they are not fortunate. Now does this fortune come about? Nicely the scriptures explain, Prabhupada explains, it is by the mercy of a Vaishnava. It's by the mercy of a devotee. So the devotees are very compassionate. They are distributing the mercy freely. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that it is the duty of a Vaishnava to go door to door and make the unfortunate people fortunate. Just see. Now the Vaishnava's special task is what? He goes door to door. Just like Prabhupada from India. He went to America, Western countries. Why? Because he wanted to make the unfortunate people there fortunate. Because when you're fortunate, what happens? You'll get the seed of devotion. Bhakti Lata, Bija will get. The Vaishnava thinks, how can these people be delivered from their hellish life? Right? Everybody is suffering in the material world. They're all going through different terms of imprisonment in the material world. How I can deliver them? How I can give Krishna to them? Right? So all these people, how they can be delivered from hellish life? Who would think like this? Everybody is only worried about his own selfish or his own personal, requirements. Right? I have to take care of my body, take care of my family, my community. People are just absorbed in these thoughts. Whereas a devotee, a Vaishnava, is going beyond this thinking and thinking, I'm not concerned about my body, I'm concerned about others' welfare, spiritual welfare, as I told you. Right? Spiritual welfare. That is the whole concern with which Prabhupada traveled across the world. No other purpose, no other intention. Just to benefit everybody spiritually. So this was Parikshit's inquiry. Parikshit Maharaj, when he asked Shukadeva Goswami, Sir, you have described on account of one's sinful activities, one is put into hellish condition of life or in hellish planetary system. Now, what are the other methods by which such persons can be saved? So, Parikshit Maharaj is asking Shukadeva Goswami, please tell me, Shukadeva Goswami, what is the way out for these people? Because I cannot tolerate the suffering of these people. When a Vaishnava comes, when God himself comes, or when God's son or his very confidential devotee comes, their only mission is to save the sinful men who are suffering. And they have knowledge of how to do this. So all the great saints, the great acharyas, and Lord himself when he comes in various forms as Son of God, Jesus Christ, Messenger of God as Allah. Right? So, Prophet Muhammad. So like that, whoever has come, their only purpose is how to deliver the sinful people. They're all suffering in this world. Out of ignorance, they are committing sins. And how to deliver them? That is the only mission, only task. Like people nowadays think the religionists or the spiritualists, they only want to, that is their profession, they want to lead a life that way and go on with their life. No, that is not the purpose. Lord is taking care of everybody. Why you have to take up a profession of spiritual person? Becoming a spiritual person or a devotee or a sadhu is to benefit everybody, even at the risk of his own life. That is the purpose. Right? When you understand this aspect of a devotee or a Vaishnava, you start appreciating the greatness of all the devotees in the history, especially Srila Prabhupada came just recently for our deliverance. A Vaishnava is considered to be, one of his qualities is he's a paradukha dukhi. So we get a wonderful explanation of this from one great Vaishnava by name Prahlad Maharaj. He was, when he met Lord Narasimhadeva, he offered his prayer like this. He said, Naivod Vijay Paraduratya Avaitaranyas Tadvirya Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chittaha Shoche Dato Imakachetasa Indriyartha Maya Sukhaya Bharamudvahato Vimudhan. He said, my dear Lord, Prahlad Maharaj said, I am not very anxious for my own deliverance. Na udvijay paraduratya vaitaranyas. So, Prahlad Maharaj, who is a great Vaishnava, is telling, I am not anxious for my own deliverance. But what I am supposed to, what I am anxious is, we see generally there are some class of spiritualists known as Mayavadis. They are very careful for their personal elevation, personal deliverance. They are so careful that their deliverance is not interrupted or disturbed in any way. Right? They are always very careful in that way. They think, if I go to preach in association with others, I may fall down and my realization will be finished. This is what Mayavadis think. They're very afraid. No, if I go and tell somebody who is not elevated in spiritual understanding, my understanding will be contaminated. Right? If I go and help other person with regard to how to develop spiritual understanding, I will be affected because other person is very ignorant, is very sinful. This is what the Mayavadis think. Right? Whereas, therefore, they don't come. Whereas the Vaishnavas, or pure devotees, they risk at the fall down and they want to go and preach. But rather, because they try to take up this task of preaching to everybody about God consciousness, they don't fall down. The Bhagavad Gita towards the end, Krishna says, one who has taken up this task of spreading the glories of Lord Krishna, Bhagavad Gita's message to one and all, Lord Krishna says, I'm going to give him special protection and I'm going to deliver him. See, Lord has special protection, special care for those people who would like to preach the glories of Krishna. So that way, a devotee is sort of taking risk. It's like, 70 years old Prabhupada was. The risk was, in fact, when he approached one of the one donor for sponsoring his travel, the donor was very skeptical and she said, you're an old man, you're going to die anytime. Because 70 years is the age wherein people would like to relax and want to retire from everything and want to spend time in a very, very comfortable way. Whereas Prabhupada, he was just following the order of his spiritual master that he has to preach the message of Sanatana Dharma, Bhagavad Gita to one and all. So he has taken the risk. But Lord protected him. In fact, while en route to America, in the ship, he had suffered 2 heart attacks. And one more heart attack, he would have finished. Prabhupada says, Lord Krishna personally protected me. And in this condition, Prabhupada landed in America. And he preached the message of Gita and Bhagavatam. And slowly from there, the movement started. And it grew into a worldwide movement of 108 temples, Krishna temples across the world in the span of just 11 years. This is the history of ISKCON. So like this, we see a devotee takes risk. Risk for whom? Risk for spreading the message of Krishna. Risk for delivering other living entities. So Krishna is going to appreciate such risk taken by the devotee. So with this preaching, the devotee may also go to hell to deliver the conditioned souls. This is what Prahlad Maharaj's mission is. He is thinking, Vijay, I am not very anxious about living in this material world, he says. Rather, Prahlad Maharaj further says, I have no anxiety for myself, but somehow or other, I have been trained to be always Krishna conscious. Naivod Vijay Paraduratya Vaitaranya Vadviya Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chitta. I am very much absorbed in thinking about Krishna, thinking about the glories of Krishna. So because the Vaishnava is Krishna conscious, he is confident that in his next life he is going to Krishna. This is what Krishna assures. Maintain your consciousness to be always merged in Krishna. Then automatically, next life you are going to Krishna. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mamiti, Krishna says. If you are constantly absorbed in Krishna thought, Krishna assures that next life you go to Krishna Loka. Like this, a devotee is already assured of his destination. Rather now his worry is, how about others' deliverance? Why are they suffering? So, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that if one executes the Krishna conscious regulative principles carefully, it is certain that he will reach the supreme destination in his next life. So Prahlad Maharaj continues, there is only one anxiety for me. What is the anxiety? See, Prahlad Maharaj, although he had no anxiety for himself, he still had one anxiety, and that anxiety for what? Soche tato vimukha chetasa indriya. I am anxious for those persons who are not Krishna conscious. That is my anxiety. For myself, I have no anxiety. But I'm thinking of those who are not Krishna conscious. Because as long as people are not God conscious, they are not following the principles of Dharma, they will be suffering. They will be committing sinful activities. So, once people become dharmic, they take up the principles of Krishna consciousness, then their sufferings will be ended. The whole reason or the whole purpose of the human life is to end our suffering. Atyantika dukkha nivritti. See, even in our regular routine life, we would like to stop problems, right? Every situation of different problem which we come across, we would like to resolve that. You don't want to stay with the problems. Your health problem, you have property problem, money problem, that problem, this problem. So many problems which keep coming up. We would like to resolve them appropriately and move forward in our life. The biggest problem with all of us is that one day we have to leave this body. What all arrangements we have done elaborately with making property, making, earning money, or earning name, power, position, all that will be ended with the end of our life in this body. So, this is the actual problem in our life. Bhagavatam says, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi is the actual problem of our life. What is that you're going to do for this? Or what is that you have found out solution for this? Is the question which Bhagavatam is putting forward for us. So, the answer also, Krishna says, when you become God conscious or when you take up devotional service, bhakti, it's going to solve your major problems in life, that is Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Right? So, here, Prahlad Maharaj is talking from that perspective, that myself I have no anxiety because I know the destination of me is I'm going to Krishna Loka after this life, but I'm worried about others because they're not even aware of what is the purpose of life. Next life they're going to hell and suffer. They'll be going on like this life after life. So I'm concerned about them. So the question is, why aren't people taking up God consciousness? Why aren't they becoming Krishna conscious? Why aren't they becoming religious is the point. Why? Because Prahlad Maharaj answers, Maya Sukham. But Maya Sukhaya Bharamudvahato. These rascals have created a humbug civilization for temporary happiness. All of us are running behind temporary so-called material happiness. Maya Sukha is called. Maya means illusory. As it is not a fact, but we have created a humbug civilization. So many cars are being manufactured every year, and for that purpose, so many roads have to be excavated and prepared. This creates problem after problem. I told you about the hellish planet. One of the pictures here, you can see how the very same animals whom you have killed will all come and kill you. Will all going to punish you. Therefore, it's called Maya Sukhaya, illusory happiness, and yet we're trying to be happy in this way. This is the reason why people are not taking up dharma. They are absorbed in illusory happiness. We are trying to manufacture some way to be happy, but it is only creating problems. It's like the example of if we want to, construct roads, and because of we want to have vehicles, because of which we have to have roads, and because of which we need to have a traffic department, this and petrol, diesel, everything is required. Like this, one after other, we are creating so many problems. We'll continue our discussion further about the wonderful quality of a Vaishnava, a devotee, the compassionate quality in the next session. For today, we're going to conclude our session. And before we conclude, I will take up any questions or any comments and discuss on that. Any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, please tell.
Prabhuji, मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है नॉट रिलेटेड टू टुडे सेशन बट काफी देर से मेरे दिमाग में. प्रभुजी, भगवान हर चीज नियंत्रित करते हैं, उनके अकॉर्डिंग पत्ता भी नहीं हिल सकता है. तो प्रभुजी, उन्होंने 33 करोड़ देवी देवता क्यों अपॉइंट किए हैं जब वो हर चीज कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं? तो व्हाई इज अपॉइंटेड सो मेनी देवतास?
So the question is, why is Lord appointed or created 33 crore devatas if Lord is doing everything? Is your question, right? Okay. The answer is very simple. See, Lord is doing everything in the sense that Lord is facilitated the whole world in a way that He has created the world in this particular fashion, that the world functions in this way. Okay, it's like Lord can do. He's very powerful. He can do Himself many things, rather everything He can do. And also, when Devatas are doing, when Devatas He has appointed, it is not that Devatas are independent. That point also you have to understand. Finally, Devatas are whom? Devatas are all part and parcel of Krishna only. Right? And Devatas are energy of Krishna only. It's finally Lord only doing, one sense. Right? But the way Lord has designed the world in such a way that He is not obviously visible to all of us. That is the point. He has made Himself behind back, hidden. Because our level of ignorance, our level of sinful tendency is so much that Lord has hidden Himself. Just like entire energy in the material world is Krishna's energy, but we are not able to see how Krishna's energy is working because we are so degraded in our consciousness. We are so fallen in our consciousness. So the different arrangements Krishna has made in the material world, different layers of arrangements Krishna has made, because there are different types of living entities in the material world, under different modes of nature. So Lord wants to facilitate the various things which the living entity is desiring. The living entity doesn't want to see God. Why God will reveal to him? The arrangements made by Krishna is to just facilitate the desire of the living entities to the extent that they want to feel, they want to experience that I am bossing over, I am lording over. Actually, Devatas are appointed agents of Krishna. Right? So in that context, from that point of view, from that angle, if you see, Devatas are supposed to be subordinate to Krishna and take the orders of Krishna. But sometimes these Devatas become so puffed up or so arrogant that they forget their own position and they want to take up Krishna's position. Just like we get the example of Indra in the Govardhana Leela. Indra was thinking, who is this Krishna? Small boy, Vrindavan, and he's talking big things. They stopped my Indra Yajna. Let me punish Vrindavan Vasis. He got torrential rains. He brought Samvartaka, clouds, which are supposed to come in the end of the devastation. Such, great floods he brought in Vrindavan. But what did Krishna do? He was, he wanted to show that Krishna wanted to prove himself to be Supreme Lord always, even as a cowherd boy. So Krishna very effortlessly lifted Govardhana hill and showed to Indra that your falsely claiming as Lord is wrong. I am the Supreme Lord. So, simple answer to your question of why Krishna created so many Devatas if Lord is himself controlling everything. His answer is that there are different grades of living entities with different influences of modes of nature. Various mentalities are there. Everybody don't want to understand Krishna, don't want to appreciate Krishna. To that extent, Krishna has created different arrangements in the material world. To that level, they appreciate, that level they understand. Otherwise, for everybody are devotees, Krishna is very easy to understand. There's a nice statement in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samapta. I am not visible to everybody. I am covered with a curtain of yogamaya. Right? Even now for us, Krishna is sitting as Paramatma in our heart. How many human beings have realized this point? In fact, the whole Bhagavad Gita is meant to make us realize that Paramatma is sitting in the heart. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, surrender to the Paramatma. Tameva sharanam gaccha. Krishna says towards the end of Bhagavad Gita. Because Paramatma is maintaining us, he's overseeing our activities, he's sanctioning. So the living entities are under different grades of ignorance. Depending on the living entities' own voluntary efforts to understand their existence, understand the reality of life, understand Krishna, to that extent Krishna reveals himself. So Krishna has to make these layers of different arrangements. So the living entities at different points of time, they just experience that I am the Lord, I am the boss. So for a person who doesn't know Krishna, for them, who is a person who is an atheist, a Nastika, for him there is no God, there is no existence of Devatas also. Whereas a person who is having little, is Astika, at least he'll recognize, oh, there is some Devata, there is a person who is superior to me. That is actually beginning of his spiritual life. There is some authority beyond me. There are some Devatas. There are some demigods. Who are these Devatas? Further inquiry, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, these Devatas are order carriers of Krishna, and they also have this tendency to lord over. But their lording over is limited to the understanding that I am lording over under the direction of Krishna. So like this, the arrangement which Krishna has made, he has his own plans. Because we are under different levels of ignorance, different grades of ignorance. So we have to come out of all this ignorance. So Krishna is facilitating all these things. Krishna is making arrangements for all this. We ourselves is the reason for these arrangements. That is the answer for your question. Okay, hope I've answered your question.
Yes, Prabhuji. Actually, someone asked me this thing, so I was not having answer for this. So I thought
Thank you. Yes, Sumita ji, Hare Krishna. What is your question?
ये हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी.
Yes, please go ahead.
मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि जैसे कि आपने बताया था कि वैकुंठ का जो रास्ता होता है, तो मेरा कि तो फिर देवता भी क्या वैकुंठ का उनका ऐसा प्रोविजन है कि वो डायरेक्ट वैकुंठ जा सकते हैं, कि मनुष्य के का ही जो पाथवे होता है कि वो पहले मनुष्य योनि में जन्म लेंगे, उसके बाद ही वो वैकुंठ का रास्ता आता है उनके पास. और ये पहला क्वेश्चन है. दूसरा क्वेश्चन मेरा ये है कि जैसे कि ये आपने बताया था ब्रह्मा जी जो हैं वो एक पद्धति है, उसमें कोई भी जीवात्मा वो बन सकते हैं, जो ब्रह्मा जी बन सकते हैं. तो अब ये जो है सरस्वती जी को ब्रह्मा जी से रिलेट किया जाता है, तो क्या सरस्वती जी भी क्या पद्धति है और कोई भी क्या जीवात्मा सरस्वती जी बन सकते हैं? ये क्वेश्चन है मेरा. थैंक यू प्रभु.
ठीक है, तो आपका पहला क्वेश्चन है, फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज whether devatas can directly go to Vaikuntha or whether they have to take the human form and then they go to Vaikuntha. Is the question. See, even
yes,
this is the first question, right? Okay. So the answer to your first question is that, see, any living entity can go to Vaikuntha. All of us are qualified to go to Vaikuntha provided we follow the process. In fact, Lord Krishna is descending to the material world and he is coming to give this message to all of us. So all of us are entitled to go to Vaikuntha actually. And if you follow the process, anybody can go. Krishna is telling so nicely in Bhagavad Gita. What does he say? Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. Anybody who knows the understanding of Krishna in truth, about his birth, about his activities, about the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tektva deham punarjanma naiti. After giving up this body, he will not get one more body, he will go back to spiritual world. Krishna assures. It's not even Vaikuntha Loka, Goloka Vrindavan. Goloka is situated above Vaikuntha. So, it is not that only Devatas can go, anybody can go, any of us can go. Provided we adopt the process given by Krishna, under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. So the specific question of whether Devatas are more eligible or Devatas are more privileged to go to Vaikuntha, yes, because they are more pious, because of which they have been given a bigger responsibility in the whole material cosmos. In that sense, yes, they have better facilities to go to Vaikuntha. But the Bhagavatam describes one more aspect, is that it's like a rich man's son, a rich man's children. they think that everything has come, and it's everything is nicely there. Very comfortable situation is there, and they tend to forget the purpose of life, the goal of life. So becoming Devatas or being in Swargaloka may give you a tendency of feeling that this is everything very good, very nice, very comfortable. There's no need to go to any other place. This feeling of, no, everything is okay, everything is fine, comes about, then that risk is there. That's why it is said, taking the human form of life is more congenial in terms of, because human life, there is sukha, dukkha both. Mostly dukkha, nonsense. So, very congenial for a human being to go back to spiritual world. That's why it is said, even Devatas are aspiring, because the level of opulence and level of comfort and enjoyment in the Devata Loka, the different heavenly planets, is so much that they forget the purpose of life. There's a tendency to forget the purpose of life. That's what happens in our material experience also. So in that sense, yes, the Devatas are, the facility is there, but the tendency or the mentality is such that they may forget. Whereas in the human form of life, the opportunity is much greater to go back to spiritual world. Okay. And coming to your next question about how Brahma and all the different Devatas have different posts. So any living entity can take up that post, right? Similarly, there are different positions which the living entities can take. Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Vayu, like that, the different positions they can take. When you come to Durga or Saraswati, Durga is actually the expansion of one of the forms of Parvati, the energy of Krishna. So those positions, Prabhupada explains elsewhere in one of the contexts that they are positions, just like, for example, Shiva's position, nobody can take, because his position is something very unique. He is one more type of a personality in between Krishna and ordinary living entity. That is a very special position that nobody can take. Only the position up to Brahma they can take. Likewise, Parvati's position also is very unique. She is not an ordinary living entity. And all the other expansions like Saraswati, Lakshmi, they're all expansions of Radharani in different forms. So those positions also nobody can take. So in that way, the positions of other Devatas that are mentioned, only living entities can, if they're qualified, they'll get the position. But whereas the positions of Saraswati, Lakshmi, Durga are all very unique positions, which they're not opposed, they're personalities themselves, expansions of Radharani. Okay, this is the answer for your question. Any other question? Any other qualification?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Fine. Thank you. Fine. So we will conclude today. Thank you everybody for participating. We'll continue with the discussion what we had today in our next session. Thank you. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.